Hi guys, so today we're going to be taking a look at document collaboration. By the end of this video you'll know everything to do with collaboration, how to chat next to a document in Teams, how to get back to any version via the version history in the Office 365 apps. We'll also have a look at some differences between collaborating in the Teams part of Teams and a group chat or a one-on-one chat. I'm Gavin Jones, I'm Transformation Manager for a Fortune 500 company, and all the videos we've got published on YouTube are real life examples that we've seen people struggling with in my day job. Got a new video on Teams coming out every single Tuesday, so remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified every time we release a new video. And without further ado, let's get into having a look at document collaboration in Teams. Okay, so we're in our test team, and if we go into the Files tab, we've already started a new Excel file. One of the other questions I get asked quite a bit is, how do I save my file straight into Teams? There's a few different ways to do that, but one of the ways that's often missed is just starting a new file directly in Teams, and then it's saved, put the new document in straight away. So that's one of the easiest ways. Some of the other ways are using OneDrive sync for your SharePoint folder, but we went into that in some of the other videos on files, which I'll link in the description below. So we just started a new Excel spreadsheet via the new button in the Files tab, and we've got this one called Version History Test. So first thing I want to cover about collaboration is just that everything that you open in Teams has always got a start conversation button, or it might turn into a little chat icon further on the right once you've started that conversation. Well, the easiest way to collaborate with a file is that you can chat about that file. So we just went into this file via the Files tab, and if I type hi everyone, just updated this with my changes, you can keep everyone informed on the project that you've updated that file. So whenever they open that file now via the Files tab, or if we'd put a link into the Conversations thread, this would update the thread. So if we come out of that file and go back to the Conversations tab, you can see we've started a new thread because no one's chatted about this file yet. So put the file as the first message, and then our reply right underneath. And then anybody that views that file, whether we clicked on the file here in the Conversations thread, or whether we went through the Files tab and viewed the file, as long as we linked it in properly with the paperclip icon, if we put it in the thread first, then everybody's going to see all of the chat associated with that file. So that's the very first way of being able to collaborate on documents in Teams, that you can chat and it keeps everything in context with that file. Second way is, I guess, what you might not be used to with SharePoint, and I just saw an article saying that whenever this particular consultant put SharePoint into a company, he always renamed it because people get used to, I guess, or bad-mouthing systems, and the systems change so drastically over time that you don't want that name associated with any bad press. But I guess in our company, SharePoint may have got some bad press about the check-in, check-out functionality, which actually hasn't been around. We've been able to get around it for quite a few years. But if you say SharePoint, people think, oh, I don't like it because you can't actually share stuff. But actually now SharePoint is amazing at sharing files. So if we, again, whether you open it this way or via the Files tab, we're going to open this file in Teams, and then we're going to go ahead and edit in the desktop app. So whether we edited it directly in Teams or we opened the main version of the program, if we've got autosave on, should be on by default. If anyone else is editing this file, which I think is up to 20 people at a time, you can all edit the same file at exactly the same time. You can even see people's cursors moving around, and you'll see who's editing it at the top saying so-and-so is also editing the file at the same time, and their cursor will appear as a different color with their name on it, and you can see exactly which cell they're editing to stop you sort of changing the exact same cell at the exact same time, which might cause some conflicts. But quite a lot of people have freaked out about having to put stuff onto Teams, and they're like, oh, well, how do I know if anyone's changed it or if anyone messes it up? I don't want to do that. So you've always got read-only as a backup. So same as you would always do in Team, same as you always do saving a Excel document, you can go into the more detailed version of save and then do general options and put read only recommended on. So if you didn't want anyone to open your file and break stuff, then you can always put read only on, but the default is that anyone can change anything at any time in the team, and we should be okay with that because now all the Office 365 programs have got version history in. So if we go and view this version history, we can see all of the times that I had opened and saved this file, and when I say saved, I think it's pretty much every minute or every time I hit enter pretty much, that we can roll back through any changes that I've done. So we should be okay with just letting files go onto Teams and be able to be updated and have all the benefits of collaborating together and co-authoring files without the nervousness that anyone's going to break anything, because that's pretty unlikely, especially when we can roll back. So obviously this file is pretty simple. I just typed in some data just over the last few minutes just to keep, so we've got some version history to look at. And in the version history, if we go and click any other version, we can open that version. This is the one where it was created. If we close that one down because it's not that useful, and open this version, you can see that it's just saved it when I just put in the headers there. Say I've done lots of other changes, I can either roll back a few different ways. So I can just move this version over, and it says, look, this is version 2, and this is the latest version because it's got no version on it. It also says the time and date that it's saved from. And this is the old version because it says read only, and it says previous version. So it says you can copy content from this version, which means you can just go and copy and paste and change the live file with any old history you had in there. Again, if it was a more complicated change than just the headers. Or you can restore the entire version over the top of the previous one. And even that itself isn't destructive. So it's saying the unsaved change in the current version, which I think it's just saving at the moment. Please save the current version before restoring a previous version. So that's okay. So let's just go back here and force it to finish saving, which it has done. So even if we want to roll back to a really old version and restore it, it's going to make that version the latest version, but we could still roll back to the previous version even. So even if someone completely broke the file, rolled back because they thought they messed it up, and then that messed up some other people's changes potentially, once it's finished saving this restored version, we can then even still just roll back to whatever the latest version was before. So you can see, look, it says I've restored to previous version there. I've just saved the file, which is what I just did. But previous to that, I saved the file there with all the data in. So if I open that version, you can see that's the one I had in, and I can go and restore that as well. So that should give us some comfort that whatever we've set up as a file to collaborate on, we can roll back to any version anyway, so we shouldn't be bothered about people messing it up. And that's the version now that we've got back, and then all the things that we just did with restoring one version and then restoring the other one will all still be saved in the version history. Whoops. So you can see I restored there and restored there, so it keeps a track of everything that's anyone's done. And obviously if there's more people working on this file, it'd be different names with the changes in there, and you can roll back and see whichever date and whichever person has done it throughout the entire history of that file. So a lot different if you're used to check in, check out on old versions of SharePoint or an old setup of SharePoint potentially, and even the major minor versions in SharePoint. All of that's gone now, and you can just see any change whatsoever in any of your files, which is absolutely lifesaver if you go wrong, and really beneficial for people working on the same file at the same time. Okay, so I just wanted to go through some differences between collaborating in the Teams part of Teams and collaborating in chat, which has confused some of our users a little bit. So if I want to get a file into the team, I can either do it through the Files tab or through the Conversations tab via the Attach button. And if I was in the team, whether I went from OneDrive or upload from my computer, it's pretty much the same thing, in that obviously people don't get confused. If they're uploading it from their computer and it goes into the team, then that's a separate version from their computer to the one that's now in the team, and they should use the one that's in the team if they've uploaded it there, because no changes will sync between the two. So one's on the computer, one's in the team, are completely separate. If you then work on the one in the team, anyone else in the team can work on it. Everyone's got permissions to that file by default, and all the changes will be saved there as well in the team, with the benefits of being backed by SharePoint. If you upload it from your OneDrive into the team, then your OneDrive is private by default, unless you share it with individual people. And Teams is quite clever in that it assumes that you don't want to keep the version in your OneDrive and share it with the entire team, because that could be a large amount of people. And I guess the membership of the team could change over time, which I guess is then quite complicated for OneDrive to understand all those permissions. So if you upload it from your OneDrive into the team, it's also going to do the same thing as uploading it from your computer. And it tries to help you out by changing the button on what you're going to do. So if we just picked a random file, say this one, it says upload a copy. So you know what it's going to do, it's going to upload a copy. As it says, if you clicked Browse Teams and Channels or Recent, that would show you, Recent obviously shows you your recent files. And depending on where it was, it might upload a copy or do a link. Browse Teams and Channels is stuff that's already in the team. So if we picked that, it would then say share a link. So it's just not changing the file, it's just pointing back to wherever the file is saved, and you're working on that version, wherever you pointed it to. If that makes sense. So if you upload a copy, it's a completely separate copy that's now in the team. If you do share a link, that's just a link back to somewhere that's already in the team, and you can pick a file from any other channel in the team and it will still share a link. If you go to any other team and come out up the hierarchy too far, then you can't break permissions across teams. So you would then, it's quite easy and useful to move files across teams, but know that you're not pointing back to the file that's in the original team, you're now making a copy in the team that you're in. All of that is quite intuitive for someone that's quite techie. It has tripped up some of our end users that are not so techie in terms of where stuff is and whether it's going to update to the original or not, but they've got their head around it with that explanation. So if you put it in the team, the file is technically backed by SharePoint. The team is backed by a SharePoint file library. So all the permissions of the files are to the team by default. Anything that's in your OneDrive is just private to you by default, unless you choose to share it. One of the shared buttons in OneDrive. If you're in chat and you share a file, then you get some different options. So let me just jump in to start a new chat. If I then try and attach a file here, obviously it cuts down on the options I can do. So I can either upload it from my computer or from OneDrive. So upload from your computer does the same thing in that it will upload a file from your computer into, I'm just going to say Teams for now, and then the version that you've got in Teams isn't the same as the version you've got on computer. They're not linked. But technically, this is where it gets different for chat and Teams, which I think I mentioned in one of the other videos, but it's good to recover it here specifically, is that the technology that sits behind sharing a file in chat is actually using your OneDrive, and the technology behind sharing a file in Teams is using SharePoint. And why that's important is because that if you have shared a file from your computer, then it's going to upload it into your OneDrive into a separate folder that's called something like Teams files, Microsoft Teams chat files. So whatever files you've shared in chat will get moved into your Microsoft Teams chat files, assuming they're not in OneDrive to start with. And that's where it then shares from. So then it uses technology in OneDrive. Again, OneDrive's private by default and just shares it with people you want to share it with individually. So if you upload a file into chat, it moves it into that folder in your OneDrive and then gets OneDrive to share it specifically to the people that are on that chat message, whether it's one-to-one or a group message, and just gives them access. If you click OneDrive in chat, it's then obviously already in your OneDrive, so then it doesn't need to move that file to Microsoft Teams chat files, because it's already somewhere in your OneDrive. So it just points back to that file in your OneDrive and then shares it again with the people that are just on that chat, either one-to-one or group chat. And that's really beneficial, because then you can work on a file without sharing it via OneDrive specifically, or by clicking share in the Office app, which would then send an email, especially if you're trying to break people's habit of email as you embed Teams. If you share in chat, it's going to do that for you, as in it's going to share that file specifically with those people for you, but it's always pointing back to your OneDrive, so it will then update the original file, and that's the only instance that you can share something in Teams where it does update the original file on your computer. Any other file, if as soon as you move it into Teams, whether it's uploaded from your computer into chat or from any method to get something into a team in Teams, then you should work on that version. If you did do OneDrive link, then if you went into the files bit of a chat, or whether you went to your OneDrive on your machine, that is exactly the same version, so a bit of benefit there. So if that makes sense as a quick video on document collaboration. So we covered chatting next to the document, we covered version history, so you should be comfortable being able to go back to any other version, and we looked at the differences in the background between sharing a file in chat and sharing one in the team. So hopefully that makes sense. If you like this video, remember to click the like button. If you haven't already, click subscribe and the little bell icon, because we've got new videos coming out every single Tuesday. And tell us what you thought about document collaboration in Teams. Is it one of the main features you use? Is there anything else you want to know? Let us know in the comments below. And then at MeeTime, we love Teams for collaboration and running meetings on, but we still think that there is a big benefit for businesses to use a meeting timer to make their meetings even better. So love it if you went and checked out MeeTime in the iOS App Store. For an app for iPhone, it will help you do that. And check out www.meetimeapps.com if you want to know any other information. So just before I go, then the previous videos are going to be linked up in the end titles, and you can view any other of our Microsoft Teams tutorials via the playlist icon in the top right of your screen right now. So thanks for watching the video this far, and we'll see you in the next one.